I remember the last time I saw rain. It was a thin smear across the windshield of a rental car, an ordinary Tuesday, and I thought, for a moment, I could outrun everything. I was wrong. We traded rain for rust. I traded a sky that moves for a sky that does not look back. When you sign the papers for Mars, you do it with hope and spreadsheets and press conferences. You do not sign them for the honest line that should be printed at the bottom in small, awful type. You will not come home the way you were. They told us it would be a mission. They told us it would be history. They told us the ship was proven, the life support redundant, the trajectory calculable to the meter. They did not tell us that in learning to live on Mars, we would learn how much of us is absolutely helplessly designed for Earth. I am writing this in the small light of Hab Unit 3. The habitat windows are thick, the view a flat orange plain that goes on and on like dried blood. Sometimes at night, when the pumps go quiet and the soft hum of the reactor is the only companion, I try to picture the color of my daughter's hair in sunlight. It is a small rebellion to remember green. I have old footage on a drive, shaky clips of backyard baseball, a dog that felt enormous when I left and must seem microscopic now. I push the memory into my mind like an anchor. It keeps me human for a while. Everything about me is different now. The first changes were subtle, a little lightheaded on waking, the face puffier in the mirror, the way the blood seemed to drift toward my head like water pooling in a tilted glass. We trained for those things. We exercised 2 hours a day, resisted, lifted, cycled, pushed to keep a body that was meant for one planet usable on another. But training was designed around months in microgravity, not the compound assault of months in transit, then months under 38% gravity, then months more in microgravity on the return legs. The interplay of those environments is a machine designed by physics to break you. Bones are patient in their betrayal. I could feel mine change before an X-ray would show the numbers. My joints began to ache in a way that was not pain, but an unwelcome knowledge. The feeling of furniture you once owned being taken apart piece by piece. For the first months, I thought it was soreness from work. We dug regolith for insulation. We sealed panels. We carried oxygen tanks the size of coffins. My legs thinned. My calves, once solid from running, went hollow. The resistance devices on board made noise like old engines every morning. The fight to keep muscle was noisy and constant, but insufficient. You cannot outwork zero gravity. By the time the first measurements came in, numbers transmitted in sterile data packets that felt like verdicts, we had lost more than I expected. Bones, the doctors said, can deteriorate at a rate of 1 to 3% a month in weightlessness. By month 6, I thought of my skeleton as a ledger with red ink climbing higher each day. At one point, a fellow crewmate joked about needing a cane. The laugh that followed was thin. Osteoporosis isn't a polite metaphor. It is a structural failure. One misstep, one stumble, and Earth would be unforgiving. I remember the first episode of near fainting after standing for too long in the mess when we first arrived on Mars. On Earth, gravity is a constant conversation between your heart and your legs. On Mars, that conversation is on a whisper. The heart, that relentless pump, learned a different rhythm in space. We observed hearts losing mass, thinning like unused muscles. The circulatory system adapted to a life where blood did not have to be dragged uphill. On Earth, the same heart would be asked to work against weight it had not practiced for years. We had cardiologists on the ground who explained orthostatic intolerance with diagrams and patient voices. Those voices did not make the dizziness any less real the first time I stood too quickly and the world tried to leave me. Radiation was the silent, patient villain.
We had shields, and we had calculations, and we had promises. They told us the exposure would be manageable. The truth is uglier because it is granular. The solar particles and cosmic rays that slip past shielding nick your DNA in the quiet of sleep. They do not announce themselves with thunder. They whisper, nick, accumulate. The dosimeters recorded numbers that made us all stare, months that equated to hundreds of CT scans. You learn to count them in images, in millisieverts, a unit that becomes a kind of currency for risk. With each reading, you feel the future compress. Cancer risk goes up in charts. Cognitive decline is written in increments no one wants to see in themselves. There are practical horrors too. On Mars, you are months from any hospital that matters. If your kidney stones flare, you are the surgeon and the radiologist and the patient. If a catheter clogs, you solve it with tools and a calm voice that lies to the panic inside. We lost a crewmate to an infection that escalated overnight, not from violence, not from a meteor, but from a slip in sterile technique and a biology that does not cooperate with waiting. The evacuation window had closed days before. We watched protocols play out on a screen, and then we watched them fail. Because, in the end, there is a limit to what a spreadsheet can promise. The mind changes in ways they do not show you in recruitment videos. Memory thins like cheap paper left in the sun. I began to notice the odd gap in conversation, a word I could not find, the name of someone I loved lightly floating away. Decision-making lost its edge. Where I once would have smoothed a procedure, now I had to read it twice. The mission psychologists chalked it up to sleep cycles and stress, to environmental monotony. But there is radiation, and there is altered blood flow to the brain, and together they co-author an erosion. You notice it most on hard days, when something small needs to be solved, and your mind, once a quick blade, feels rusted at the tip.
We practiced coming home. We simulated re-entry over and over in centrifuges. We rehearsed standing, walking, gripping the handrail. But simulation is not reality. It cannot teach you what it is to have lived 2 years under a different set of physical laws. The first time the mission planners floated the word return, it sounded like mercy. Then the data came in from our bodies, bone density down by a frightening fraction, muscles that responded but could not replace mass, hearts that had adapted to a life of less work. The question became less about whether we could make the engines push the ship toward Earth, and more about whether our bodies could absorb the language of gravity again. The doctors sent their reports in PDFs and tired voices. Reconditioning might take months, they said. Some of us might never fully recover, they whispered. The margins on those pages felt like a sentence. And then there are the small cruelties of being human off-world, the things you miss that are not dramatic, the smell of a bakery down the block, the greasy comfort of a diner, the late-night radio static that loops through your memory like a lullaby. We adapted ritualistically. On mission days, someone would stream an old baseball game. On down days, we'd play a recording of rain. My daughter's laugh is on an old file labeled June 14, and I listen to it like contraband. It keeps me irrationally tethered. We had meetings early on where public relations rehearsed the slogans. One small step for humankind, they told us, would be a fraction of the truth. There are no slogans to describe the arithmetic of loss. There is a kind of quiet dignity in acceptance, but acceptance is not surrender. It is a reorientation of purpose. The first human to step onto Mars looked out at a world both beautiful and indifferent, and for a moment we were all poets and scientists at once. But the petals drop when you realize the cost. Not a heroic death in an explosion, but a slow, bureaucratic erosion of what made you terrestrial. It is not all bleak, because humans are good at finding life in small things. We built green boxes where plants fight with dust to grow. The first tomato we grew tasted like victory. We laughed. The crew improvised games. We ran on treadmills designed to simulate gravity. We tethered ourselves to massive rigs, and we counted every step that kept us from losing more than we could afford. There were moments where the sun, or what passes for it here, would glaze the horizon, and for a breath we would forget what we had given up. Those moments are what keep a person going. I do not romanticize it. There is hubris in the audacity to leave home, but there is also a clarity. In the sterile light of the habitat, stripped of daily illusions, you learn who you are. I learned that I could be terrified and still lace my boots. I learned that when one of us broke down on the inside, the others would carry him like cargo, because there is no other option. We are a small village on a rock.
The decision, when it came, was not made in a single boardroom. It arrived in an accumulation of data and small tragedies. The engineers argued for more shielding, the biologists argued for delay, the politicians argued for risk and for optics. We were asked to be pioneers, and pioneers are defined not only by courage, but by cost. In the end, the recommendation was clinical. Return posed an unacceptable medical risk. We could attempt it, the memos read, but the probability of severe morbidity upon re-entry was too high. The language used was awkwardly sterile, irreversible physiological changes. To those in suits and comfortable shoes, it was calculus. To us, it was fate. I signed the amendment. That is a strange sentence to write down and to mean. You picture yourself a different person when you agree to stay. There is a legal process, a counseling session, and dozens of forms. There is also a very human process of farewell, the recorded messages home, the letters you fold so many times the creases are familiar maps. My daughter sent me a drawing of our house from her kindergarten class. The windows had happy faces. After I sent it back with my note, "I'll see you in the stars," she called one evening and asked whether stars could be hugged. I said yes, because a lie that comforts a child is a small mercy I was willing to keep. What happened next was not cinematic. There was no banner, no tearful station platform. There was a quiet handover. We turned a flagpole sideways and planted it into regolith all the same, because ritual survives in odd forms. We broadcast the first steps live and counted the millions of viewers who watched us become the first Martians, knowing some of them watched with pride and others watched with the abstract curiosity that discomforts me now. We read the comments like people reading obituaries by hand. Some celebrated, some debated, some spun fiction into threat. None of it altered the physical facts of our bodies. Days become tasks now. Maintenance, scientific observations, cultivating life in boxes, watching the red landscape for signs of shifting dust. We teach ourselves to be useful. We log measurements that will help the next cohort, if there is a next cohort. There is a stubborn human insistence on progress, even when progress is nothing more than survival. I file data, I run assays, I plant the seeds again and again. Sometimes the loneliness comes in the small hours, a cold that is not temperature. I think of Earth and how the air would feel on my skin, how a simple walk would be an intense act of violence against the body I have become, the hips that might fracture, the heart that might fail, the head that might not remember why it wanted to come back at all. There is a psychology to that knowledge. You survive by reframing home. Home is no longer a place you can feasibly return to. Home becomes a memory, a file, a soft place to rest your aching mind. And yet, in the end, there is a kind of stubborn, fierce meaning to staying. If any good can come from being the first to alter what a human body is,
it will be for the next group. Maybe engineers will design rotating habitats that simulate gravity at useful levels. Maybe physicists will find materials or magnetic solutions to block more of the cosmic tide. Maybe a child born here will know a life between worlds that is not measured in loss. These are small hopes. They are what we press our palms to in the small hours when the hum of the reactor feels like the steady beat of a large, forgiving heart. If someone reads this years from now, with better suits and better ships, understand that we did not leave because we wished to abandon Earth. We left because there was no other choice. We left because our curiosity outweighed our fear, because we believed that the risk was worth the knowledge. But knowledge has a cost, and in our case, it was our very terrestrial bodies. I will end this with a small human wish. If you ever stand in a drizzle and curse the inconvenience of getting wet, stop and hold your hand up to it. Remember us and know that what you take for granted, gravity, rain, the ability to walk without a thought, is itself a miracle. Hug the people next to you. Tell them the name of the street you grew up on. Say it out loud. We carry those streets in our pockets like talismans. Tonight, the sky is clear. The twin moons, Phobos, Deimos, ride like dull coins above the horizon. I think of home. I think of the smell of a bakery. I roll over in my sleeping bag, touch the folded paper with the drawing of a house, and for a moment, the shape of me is whole. Then the pumps kick, the alarms are silent, and I breathe the recycled air and stand to begin another day on a planet that will keep me in its bones.